Teostra's Flames is a rarity 8 heavy bowgun in Monster Hunter World. You can make one with parts from Teostra. You're going to need a Teostra gem, essentially. And that's a really interesting heavy bowgun that's kind of been flying under my radar until just recently. You know, I've really been wanting to do something with this heavy bowgun because I absolutely love the way it looks. It looks like a big red cannon. If you give it the shield mod, it looks like it has a wheel, right? And it actually looks really sexy with the Teostra armor set. Unfortunately, the armor set doesn't pair with the weapon at all, so you know, there's you won't be getting to use it that way, but it's still just the weapon itself looks very cool. And I think if you learn to master this weapon, or at least you learn what the most effective build is, you'll be able to come in and kind of show it off to people who aren't willing to build it because they don't understand it. Alright, let's begin as I always do by talking about the attributes of the weapon. The attack value on Teostra's Flame is unusually low. That's the problem. It has kind of like, you know, the vanilla low damage that all of the heavy bowguns had when the game launched. We definitely see some power creep with some of the new heavy bowguns we have, like the Glutton heavy bowgun, the Terror the Salthorn, the Dark Devourer, right? These are high damage heavy bowguns, and when you look at Teostra's Flames, you're kind of like, I kind of wish it had more damage, right? But trust me, there are ways we're going to make up for that. Next, you'll notice it has 0% affinity. That isn't going to affect us either way. We're going to have we're going to have an explosive ammo build on this heavy bowgun. And so, if you didn't know this, explosive ammo is unaffected by affinity either way. In fact, explosive ammo pretty much ignores everything to always deal a set amount of damage, but that's also what's so cool about it, because it's useful in a lot of situations where damage sources that rely on like critical damage, critical hits, they don't get that, right? So explosive ammo is like one of my favorite ammo types in the game right now. Next, you'll notice the deviation is low, and this does pair well with the Wyvern Heart, and the fact that we have 0% affinity means we're never going to get a feeble shot from the Wyvern Heart. So I actually do use the Wyvern Heart on this build. It's not the strongest thing in the world. It's just, you know, it helps extend how much ammo I need to finish the fight, because Wyvern Heart, of course, doesn't actually count as, it's a rechargeable ammo type. And so it is kind of useful in that regard, and when I'm speed running, really I only use it one time, so it's not even important that it that it recharges. But yeah, I'm rambling on about the Wyvern Heart. The point is I do use it, and the deviation being low is helpful. You'll notice on the custom mods that I've gone with 3 close range up mods. I'll be talking a little bit more about that as we get into the build. Essentially, I have evade extender on the build, so I don't really feel like I need a shield. Also, to help compensate for the fact that Teostra's Flames has a lower attack value, we do take 3 close range up mods, and you know, we're able to get away with this because of the attributes of the ammo, which we should probably jump into right now. Now, as you know, in Monster Hunter World, when we're trying to evaluate a heavy bowgun, what we're really looking at are both its base attributes, like its damage, but then we're also looking at the attributes of its ammo types, because it's the combination of those two things that make a bowgun strong or weak. Let's go ahead and just pop down the list here. You'll notice it has normal ammo level 3 and pierce ammo level 3. The normal ammo 3 is just okay. We're not going to build for it. It's got spread ammo level 1. You should never use that, as tempting as it looks. It's got sticky ammo level 3. For our build, it's going to have too much recoil. But we do bring sticky ammo level 2, because what you can do is you can cause a KO on the monster, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to it. And then, of course, it has cluster ammo level 3 and cluster ammo level 2. This is really one of the things that keeps this gun competitive. It's not going to do as good of a job as the Dark Devourer, though. Dark Devourer is a much better cluster ammo heavy bowgun in the end, and Dark Devourer is really going to outrank Teostra's Flames in a meta tier rating. So if you really want the best heavy bowgun, you're just going to use Dark Devourer anyways, which, by the way, I have a guide on that if you're curious about it. But for the sake of using more weapon variety and enjoying using a big cannon and having a unique experience, which I genuinely believe Teostra's Flames offers, we're going to go ahead and still take a look at this gun, right? It's like I said, I'm looking at this gun kind of late into the game because I've been using the best heavy bowgun, and now I want to have some fun with some of the other heavy bowguns, right? Who doesn't want to do that? Now, one of the things I do have to say I'm disappointed with on this heavy bowgun, and I think it would have helped a lot if it had been different, is it doesn't have any sleep ammo. Sleep ammo pairs extremely well with the Wyvern Ammo, and this is going to be a Wyvern Ammo build, essentially, right? It does have poison ammo, so you can poison the monster once. Poison is not that strong, but it's just okay, so I do bring it with me just so that I can poison the monster one time, and then I don't really think about it after that. You're not going to touch the flaming ammo. It's not helpful. It's actually terrible on this gun. You're not going to touch slicing. And of course, I don't touch demon or trank armor, which really just leaves us the main draw of this heavy bowgun, and that's the Wyvern ammo. Unlike any other heavy bowgun in the game up to this point, this is the only heavy bowgun that holds 2 shots of Wyvern ammo. That means on the Griffon Blazooka and the Terreth Assault Horn, both Griffon ammo builds, right? On each of those heavy bowguns, they're going to have to reload twice as many times as Teostra's Flames, if you think about it. So what's interesting is Teostra's Flames has less damage than Griffon Blazooka and Terreth Assault Horn. However, because it reloads half as many times, I think it ends up having about the same burst damage, or maybe even higher. It's kind of crazy because usually when you hit a monster with the Wyvern ammo, they flinch. When you follow up with another shot right away, some of the monsters just KO right off of that. Like, just the damage just KOs them right away. So it's very, very powerful in that regard. The problem is, well, the real problem you're going to run into with the Wyvern ammo is, since it's not dealing as much damage as possible, it doesn't have as much sustained damage as Griffon Blazooka or the Terreth Assault Horn. The problem is you run out of Wyvern ammo, and then you have to switch over to another ammo type. And at first, I thought this was a really big drawback. I thought, well, I might as well stick to Griffon Blazooka and Terreth Assault Horn, until I realized once you're out of Wyvern ammo, you just move over to cluster ammo level 3 and finish the fight that way. And as it turned out, that works extremely well. You just burst fire with the Wyvern ammo all the way until you run out of it. And of course, you can also pop in some poison. You can get your Wyvern heart out. Like, if you knock the monster over and then reload the Wyvern right away, you usually get to unload the whole clip right on their head, right? So that's kind of that's my strategy with the Wyvern heart, and I do use it to help supplement the Wyvern ammo, just like I said earlier in the guide. But yeah, so you use all of your Wyvern ammo and you craft it, right? You're going to have to do item management just like you do with every heavy bowgun. So be sure you create a loadout for this heavy bowgun. I recommend bringing the normal ammo 3 with you. Obviously, bring the Wyvern ammo with you. Bring cluster 2 and 3. Bring sticky 2, right? And bring the poison. And what you do is for your radio menu, you're going to need to be able to craft more Wyvern ammo, and you're going to need to be able to craft more cluster bombs. So be sure you have your radial menu set up for that, and make sure you brought the ingredients to craft these ammo types in your item loadout. Yeah, so now what you're going to do is you'll spam out all of your Wyvern ammo very quickly, and it does go out quickly because you don't reload very often. And then you just swap right over to the cluster bombs. It's really interesting because we also have this new thing from Lunastra called the Temporal Mantle, right? And it auto-dodges for you. And as it turns out, the Temporal Mantle is amazing when you pair it with the Wyvern ammo, because one of the biggest risks when you're using Wyvern ammo is you're just kind of out there in the open. And you start charging your shot at the monster, right? And when you're charging that shot, shield mods on heavy bowguns don't protect you in the middle of charging Wyvern, right? So you're just at high risk at that point. Well, if you're wearing the Temporal Mantle, you're not at risk, because if the monster attacks you during the charge, you just auto-roll, right? It rolls for you. So the Temporal Mantle really kind of buffed the strength of Wyvern ammo builds on Griffon Blazooka, Terreth Assault Horn, and now, of course, this one, Teostra's Flames. And so let's talk a little bit about the damage compared to, let's just talk about Griffon Blazooka, because Blazooka and Horn, they do the same damage. So when we're comparing Teostra's Flames to Griffon Blazooka Wyvern ammo, I was getting about 70 damage more per shot from the Griffon Blazooka. But what's so interesting about Teostra's Flames is, even though it's missing that damage, since it's always going to fire twice in a row without having to reload, it actually does more damage than the Griffon Blazooka in a shorter period of time. And that's what we call burst damage, right? So burst damage versus sustained. Griffon Blazooka is going to have higher sustained damage, whereas Teostra's Flames is going to have higher burst damage. But the point is, after you're done dealing all your burst, you then jump over to the cluster, you're not out of ammo, you get to keep going, right? Whereas the Wyvern and the Horn, they don't have cluster ammo level 3, so they don't get to keep going. So it's actually very interesting. I think Teostra's Flames actually competes about at the same level as Griffon Blazooka and Terreth Assault Horn, just because it also comes with that cluster ammo after you've used up all of your Wyvern ammo. Alright, well, we're done talking about all the ammo types now, and I hope I've kind of made a case for, or kind of explained how it fits into the heavy bowgun meta. Let's go ahead and take a look at the skills that I brought for this weapon. As usual, I'm going to talk about the priority of these skills, because that's going to help you guys decide if you don't have all the decorations you need, or if you want to do the build a little different than how I did the build. This is talking about the priority of the skills is going to help you make your decisions. So of course, you have to have Xeno Divinity. That's going to mean you're bringing 3 pieces of the Xeno armor set. That gives you the spare shot skill, which means you have about a 25% chance not to expend ammo. That is incredibly important both for the cluster ammo and for the Wyvern ammo. So this is a must-have. On top of that, you have to have Artillery 3. That's where most of your damage comes from. If you didn't know this about explosive ammo types, they're not affected by raising your attack the same way other ammo types are. The best way to raise your attack is to just use the artillery skill. On top of that, I have free element / ammo up skill, and that's just going to give me another shot of the cluster bomb ammo when I'm getting ready to use my cluster bombs because I've run out of the Wyvern ammo. So this is pretty important as well. And now we get into kind of the area where you can play around with what it is you want on the build. So you'll notice I have Slugger level 3. I would argue you could probably drop that and bring Peak Performance instead. Peak Performance just isn't going to change your damage very much, and what Slugger will do is it'll make it much more effective for your Sticky Ammo level 2 to cause a KO in a pretty short amount of time. So that's up to you. If you're speedrunning, obviously you're going to go with Peak Performance. If you're playing in a group, you can probably stick to Slugger. So again, it's up to you. Another one, Evade Extender. I would actually argue Evade Extender is more valuable than Slugger here. We got a new helmet from Lunastra, the Empress Crown. It's an extremely good helmet for heavy bowgun builds, because now you can have Evade Extender on your heavy bowgun and be able to roll really far distances, which not just keeps you safe, but it helps you chase down the monster. And in this case, we're using triple close range mods with Wyvern ammo, so it's extremely valuable to have that Evade Extender. Finally, you also notice I have this special ammo boost that directly upgrades the damage of the Wyvern Hard ammo. And so yeah, it's very natural to bring this. If you don't want this, or maybe you don't have it, you could just bring perhaps 2 levels of Vitality, or you mix and match, whatever's most helpful for you. But True Shot just fit into the build nice, and of course I do use the Wyvern Heart. Alright, and that's the build. There's a few other skills like Blight Resistance, Flinch Free. Those just came with the Xeno armor set. Otherwise, I wouldn't really worry about that. I wouldn't have brought them. But I have to have that spare shot from Xeno Divinity, so they come with the build. Alright, and then after that, I suppose I could talk a little bit about my experiences with it. I was speed running Tempered Kieran, and I was finishing him pretty consistently at about the 4-minute mark. And of course, in those runs, I didn't have any perfect runs, so I think if the run had been perfect, it would have actually ended around 3 minutes, which is very, very good for fighting a Tempered Elder Dragon. And that is why I think Teostra's Flames is probably actually capable of competing with Griffon Blazooka and Terreth the Salthorn, and maybe even going faster than them. Because again, you lose out on about roughly 900 damage in the long run, right? In the entire fight, you miss out on that because you're not dealing as much damage per shot, but because you're always firing 2 shots back to back, and sometimes 3 when spare shot activates, right? Because you're firing like that, you end up just outburst damaging them, and it's really interesting. And then even when you run out of Wyvern, it doesn't really bother you that you dealt 900 and roughly about 910 damage over the duration of the entire fight. It doesn't really matter. You just switch over to Cluster Bombs 3, and the Cluster Bombs 3 on the Teostra's Flames does about the same damage as the Cluster Bomb 2 on the Dark Devourer. And again, I don't really think this gun is going to come close to the Dark Devourer by any means. Dark Devourer is still king, and if you're really interested in that gun, I do have a guide already made for it, but I think it actually does compete with Griffon Blazooka and Terreth the Salthorn. So if you finally wanted to use the Teostra's Flames because you love the way it looks, I hope that you found this build informative, and some of my observations are useful too. I really do think part of the things that helped unlock this make it a more competitive build, more competitive heavy bowgun at this point, is just the fact that we have the Empress Crown now and the Temporal Mantle. I think that helps a lot as well. Alright, well that is everything I have to say about Teostra's Flames. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.